Trump has once again given Putin 2 more weeks to end the war in Ukraine, while Putin says the West is responsible for kicking off the war. And here is the latest. But first, don't forget to like, subscribe and leave your comments below. US President Donald Trump has once again given Vladimir Putin a 2-week deadline to end Russia's war against Ukraine. Donald Trump says that next 2 weeks will show where talks on Ukraine are heading. Earlier, the US president believed that during this time, Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Russia's Vladimir Putin should meet and agree on peace.
I settled 7 wars, and actually, if you think about pre-wars, add 3 more, so it would be 10. I thought this would be in the middle of the pack in terms of difficulty. No, I'm not happy about anything about that war. Nothing. Not happy at all. We'll see what happens. I think over the next 2 weeks, we're going to find out which way it's going to go. And I better be very happy.
Trump added that he'll be watching closely to see which side fails to strike an agreement. For now, he's not planning a 3-way meeting with Zelenskyy and Putin, saying they should start negotiations on their own. Meanwhile, the Kremlin keeps putting off a meeting between Putin and Zelenskyy. Moscow says no talks at the presidential level are scheduled, but claims Putin is ready if it happens.
There is no meeting planned, and they are not challenging this. But you cannot, I think, understand what I am saying. Putin is ready to meet with Zelenskyy when the agenda would be ready for a summit. And this agenda is not ready at all.
Meanwhile, Russia's foreign minister claimed that during a meeting in Washington, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy allegedly said no to all of Trump's proposals to settle the war in Ukraine. Proposals the US considered necessary. In reality, the Ukrainian leader expressed willingness to pursue peace and repeatedly stated that the war must end. Moscow has also started raising questions about Zelensky's legitimacy if the deal were ever to be signed. President Zelenskyy said that right now Russia does not want to end the war. He believes Moscow is doing everything to delay its conclusions and to avoid new US sanctions.
I think so. A week ago or 2 weeks ago, Russia was in the same place it is now. It doesn't want to end the war. It wants to use ultimatums to block any possibility of ending the war. They do everything to ensure President Trump does not impose sanctions on them. They act so that the United States does not apply the full pressure it can. This is what Russia is doing.
Russia's Vladimir Putin is once again spreading false claims about the war in Ukraine, insisting the West started it in 2014. In the reality, the war began when Russia invaded Ukraine, seizing Crimea and launching its military aggression in the east of the country. Speaking in the Russian city of Saratov, Putin repeated the Kremlin's false claim that the West started the war in 2014 against the people of Donbas. He accused so-called Western propaganda of distorting events despite documented evidence that it was Russia which invaded Ukraine that year, seizing Crimea and starting its military aggression in the east of Ukraine.
To be honest, what projects have we lost from so-called unfriendly countries? Well, by the way, we don't have unfriendly countries. We have unfriendly elites in some countries. But I can assure you that we have good relations with the peoples of those countries. Propaganda, of course, works. They brainwash people and say that we started the war, forgetting that they themselves started the war in 2014, when they began using tanks and aviation against the peaceful population of Donbas. That's when the war began, and we are doing everything we can to end it.
But in 2014, it was Russia that invaded Ukraine, first illegally annexing Crimea, then starting the war in Donbas region. Moscow's actions have been condemned worldwide as a violation of international law. Putin also claimed Europe has almost no sovereignty and suggested he hopes for improved relations with the United States under Donald Trump's second presidency. Full-scale famine has now been officially confirmed in Gaza. For the first time, the Famine Review Committee has officially verified that the northern part of the Gaza Strip is experiencing famine. According to the Integrated Food Security Phase classification, the area is at Phase 5, the catastrophic level. Experts warn that in the coming weeks the crisis could spread to the provinces of Deir al-Balah and Khan Yunis. Analysts say the cause is entirely man-made. The UN reports that more than 500,000 people in Gaza are now facing full-scale famine. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres reminded that Israel has clear obligations under international law, including providing food and medical supplies to the population.
Mass famine is not just a shortage of food, it is the deliberate collapse of the systems necessary for human survival. People are starving, children are dying, and those who are obliged to act are doing nothing. We need an immediate ceasefire, the immediate release of all hostages, and full, unhindered humanitarian access.
Meanwhile, Israel has pushed back against the famine claims. The Foreign Ministry insists there is no famine in Gaza, calling the IPC ranking Hamas lies amplified by organizations chasing their own agendas. Ukraine must receive security guarantees that would prevent Putin from launching another attack. That's what Secretary-General NATO Mark Rutte said after meeting with Ukrainian President in Kyiv. He explained that these guarantees would come in two layers. The first layer involves a peace deal or ceasefire or combination of both, aiming at strengthening Ukraine's armed forces so they can withstand any challenges. The second layer, Rutte said, would come from the United States and Europe. He added that work on this is already underway.
That's what we are working on. And as we all know, the Budapest Memorandum and Minsk did not provide those security guarantees. So we clearly know what it should not be. And we are now working together, Ukraine, the Europeans, the United States, to make sure that the security guarantees are of such a level that Vladimir Putin, sitting in Moscow, will never, ever try to attack Ukraine again.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has complained to President Donald Trump about Ukrainian strikes on Druzhba oil pipeline. The pipeline carries Russian oil to Hungary and Slovakia. Orban sent a letter to Trump and the US president has replied. Magyar Nemzet newspaper published copies of both the letter and Trump's response on Friday.
5 days ago, just before the historic meeting between President Trump and Putin in Alaska, Ukraine carried out drone strikes on the Druzhba oil pipeline in Russia. This pipeline supplies Hungary and Slovakia, two countries that have no other means of importing crude oil. Hungary supports Ukraine with electricity and petrol. In return, they bomb pipeline that supply us. Very unfriendly move. We wish President Trump every success in his pursuit for peace.
In his response, the US president said he doesn't like to hear this and described himself as very angry. Earlier, Trump had imposed additional tariffs on India over its continued purchases of Russian oil and gas, but Slovakia and Hungary doing the same appears to have caused him no concern. On the night of August 18th, the Ukrainian forces alongside other defense units struck the Nikolske pumping station in Russia's Tambov region. Following this, Hungary's Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó raised concerns about the Druzhba pipeline for the third time, again halting Russian oil deliveries to Hungary. Hungary and Slovakia have sent a letter to the European Commission, but officials in Brussels say it does not affect EU energy security. That's all for now. Stay tuned for more updates.